In this session, we'll talk about different kinds of charts which relate the part to the whole, right? So, they talk about what is the total value and how much is contributed by each part. How is the parts adding up to the total? So, for this, we would be talking about a stacked bar chart, a tree map, the area charts, and the pie chart. Right? Probably it's as good as saying what percentage of total sales that is contributed by each region. Right? I'm more interested in doing that kind of a breakup. And that is where we are talking about the relationship between the part and the whole. And these different kinds of visualizations are being offered by Tableau for that purpose. So let's get started with the stacked bar chart. Of course, though we have looked at them in our earlier session some time back, but a quick revision of the same. So what is that I can do as a part of the stacked bar chart? Let's create that. Right, in this itself, let me use my coffee chain example for this purpose. Right, in this coffee chain, I want to look at market wise. So let me drag market onto this. What happened? Okay, central, east, south, west. Alright, so this is my market. And I can look at the sales. Where is my sales? Yeah, we have the sales here. So I'm looking at market wise sales. Now how do I break it? The product. Right, the product, let's say I pull it onto my color. So it's as good as, okay, the total sales in the central is this much, 265,000. Now I want to really break up what is contributed by each of the products. How does this 265 come out? Based on different kinds of products. And that is what I can very well pull the product or product type. Right, this I think has only 4 different product types, whereas products are 13. So let's not clutter the stuff. So product type, I'll drag it into the color. So suddenly it is showing, okay, the tea is the red, the green is herbal tea, then espresso, then coffee. So this is what a stacked bar chart is, right? So we have seen that it can represent the part to the whole. The whole is still, the West market has created a sales of around 50, total sales of around 270k, and out of that probably the West contributed around 57,000, the coffee contributed around 57,000, espresso around 69, the herbal tea around 72, and even the normal tea is also around 72,000. So this is what we were able to generate by using a stacked bar. But of course, with this stacked bar, we even notice that there is some amount of a disadvantage or a drawback. I cannot compare values across the categories, right? Except for the leftmost bar, the red one. Probably for the red one, I can still say the West. In the South, the red one does not exist, which is the tea. And in the West, probably it's higher compared to the Central and all other regions. And the East is the least. Whereas, if I want to talk about a herbal tea, is it higher in Central or in the West? It's not that easy to make up with the naked eye, because the starting points are different for both of them. So it cannot be used for the comparison across the categories except for the leftmost bar. right? Because the starting points are different for each of the bars. So for an objective of comparing across the categories, probably this kind of a visualization is not appropriate. But if I am more interested in looking at the part to the whole, then we are not comparing across the categories, we are looking within that, right? We are looking within Central, within East, which product created how much of market share for me. So here our intention is purely the each makeup of each region, the composition of the each region, right? So I really want, I may not be interested in absolute terms. In some cases, I may be more and more interested in the relative terms also. And that's where my whole workout comes up. Now, all that I want to look at is not in absolute numbers. This whole thing I want to look at in terms of the percentages. So that I want to see in which region, which product has come out with how much contribution, right? Probably in Central, is it like all the four products have a 25% market share? Or something is more, something is less? Some such kind of visualization I really want to do. So we are looking at the relative breakdown of the stuff. Now for this, okay, initially I have created something like this. Right, so all these, this is fine. Now let's say I want to create parallelly, right? I really want to create, let me drag one more version of this. Let's say the sales from here to here. Let me take two different versions. Here I'll create the percentage wise. Here I'll have the absolute number wise. So I simply duplicated the stuff, right? Just by pressing Control and dragging it, I have duplicated the stuff. Now I am having two different sales. The axis relating to the sales, I have two different, which is pure like a duplicated view. Now, if I look at this one, I go to the drop down here, I want to change it into a percentage. So how do I change it into a percentage? That is present as a part of my quick table calculation. I can simply talk about the percentage of the total. Alright, so I'll say percentage of the total. Now you see in the ground, in the axis, it has changed into 0%, 5%, 10% kind of stuff. So it has become a percentage total. So in the background, there is a calculation that got occurred and the overall percentages of the total has been computed. But this is not what I wanted. I wanted 100% for each region, right? So everything expressed in terms of percentage only, right? This is again, both of them are looking one and the same, except the axes are changed from numbers to percentages. Now I can show a different form of representation here. Okay, let's go here again. Let's say I want to compute using this. By default, it has computed the percentages using table down. But I can say table across, which means all of them across. That summation is 100%. So for each market, we are taking 100% and we are taking the breakup of that. So if you look at this table across, it works more like this. So every market is 100%. And then within that, we are looking at how much is the percentage. Now you could see here, Okay, tea is producing 26.53% of the total here. 26.55 is done by the herbal tea. 25.68 goes with the espresso, whereas only 21.25% of the total wealth is contributed by the coffee. So each market adds up to 100% here. So I can have a representation like this as well. And now to understand better, I can even go for the labels. So I can click on the ABC button out here, which will identify the labels, right? The default labels for each mark. Okay, 25, 25, 22, 26. So it's very clear that in the central market, right, almost every product is more or less the same. Whereas in the east market, there is a heavy dominance by coffee. In the south market, there is a heavy dominance by the espresso. So some such kind of identification we are able to do very comfortably. So the default labels are coming out, and probably I can even do the fine tuning as well. If required, I can, if I want to do it on some kind of a field, I can drag that particular field onto the label. I can do some kind of a customization if I want. I can do some kind of a fine tuning if I want. Now, this is showing 0% to 100%, which is percentage of the total sales. And if required, I can very well fix this from 0 to 1. Right, I click on this axis, do an edit axis. Now it's very clear. Now I don't want to take it 0 to 105. 105 cannot come out. So if required, I can even fix it from 0 to 1. So at any point, I know that the value is only 100% and the graph looks full. I'm utilizing the full space for it. So all the way across the bars are typically drawn. So this is the way where we can represent the stacked bar. So the stacked bar can be used, one for representing the values, two for knowing even the percentages as well. Right, so two different usages of the stacked bar chart. Now, let's now discuss the other variant of the charts, right, part to whole chart, which is a tree map. A very interesting chart to work out with. So we would be seeing this tree maps. It's basically the usage of the tree map is more like a series of nested rectangles. Right? That is what is the tree all about. It's a series of nested rectangles which are representing the hierarchical relationship of the parts to the whole. So especially when I am having some kind of hierarchies in my data, right, I have some kind of hierarchies in my data, or there are so many dimensions in my data. Let's say products, there are so many products. So if I have different more number of dimensions and or more number of hierarchies in my data, then a tree map is a very better fit. Right, now we can look at, probably taking as an example, I can even take the superstore example, wherein I can really look at the sales of each of the item, add up to the total sales by each category of each item. Right, I am taking the sales of each of the items, how it is getting added up to give the total sales by category, and then the total sales by department, and finally the total sales overall. So this is the hierarchy we are talking of. Individual item, category, department, and the overall sales. And I can very well see which which one is more profitable by first representing a tree map with this and putting profit as a color mechanism. So which of them are profitable and which of them are loss making kind of stuff. So that's the kind of visualization we can bring in with the tree map. So once I put a profit with a color, I'm getting an additional layer of visualization in the data. I can very clearly identify the loss making products, loss making categories, loss making departments, probably with a higher sales. So I can really bring out useful analytics out of that particular data. Now, all these, especially in the analytics world, tree maps, or let's say packed bubbles, right? These are some of the kinds of charts which we talk of, or it could be word cloud. All these, they come under the typical category of non-Cartesian charts, right? Non-Cartesian charts. So basically what it means is they actually will not have any x and y axis. They do not have any kind of x and y axis, and they do not require even the row or column headings kind of stuff. So that's the reason they are being called as non-Cartesian charts. So let's go ahead in terms of creating the stuff. Right now, all I need is first identify the size. Right, what is the kind of a measure that defines the size of the tree map? And I require a measure to be put on the size. Right, what do I need to specify a tree map? I need one measure which is a representation of the size, and I want one dimension field to be present as a method of as a part of detail, because I'll not have the axis here. I'm using only the marks area. I won't put anything in the rows and columns here for a tree map. I'm using only the size and the detail areas. So that is what is giving me a tree map, right? And if required, I can keep adding additional levels of detail, right? By default, what I need is one dimension I need to give to a detail and one measure of size, but I can keep increasing the level of detail by adding more and more dimensions to the detail. And let's do that first, and after that we'll see if we can really change to some other mechanisms out here. Okay, let's pull one measure. Let's say sales. Let me pull them onto size. Okay, so the total sales is showing 2.297 million. Now I am not much interested in that. So that is what the size is being shown. And now I want to pull one dimension, right? I want to pull one dimension into it. So let me pull the region, right? Let me pull the region into the level table. Now this is the east, this is central, this is west, central, east, south. So it's giving me a breakup like this. Or I could have added, so we'll do it into, let's say we pull all the items, right? We want more and more detail. So we want the whole hierarchy to come out. So I can drag, let's say, We don't have the item out here. So let me pull the product. Our product ID is nothing but my item. Now it is giving me for different products. So the different products, there is a kind of a picturization that is created out here. Now I can very well pull, let's say, even the category also to the detail. So category also let me pull into the detail. Right, even probably the product, I pull it into the details. So now there is a detailed breakup of the category of the product. Now if required, okay, so now what is that I would like to look at? I want to do a different coloring. So what I can very well do is all the categories I'll have a different color. So I'm having different categories. Category 1, this is the technology. So this is furniture and this is office supplies. So each one I'm having with a different color. And probably in this again, let's say product ID also I want to put it color wise. Now I'm getting a completely different kind of a representation which is coming out, the color is coming through the product ID. So this is the product ID within the technology. MA1002412 is the product ID. So the it is coming through the product ID out here. But if I'm saying no, I'm not interested at this level, then probably I can simply change the color based on the category itself. So I'm getting the coloring that is being done based on the category. And see, probably to get a much better representation, let's not use this example. Let me use this coffee chain example itself. So let's pull out all this stuff so that we can get a much better understanding from the coffee chain example. What is that we can do in our coffee chain example? I'll simply pull the overall sales, right? Let's do something like this. I'll pull the sales from here into size. Okay, my total sales is 819,000. Agreed. Now I want to do a breakup of all these sales. First dimension that I want is market wise. So the first detail I am adding market wise. So these are my four markets. This is the west market, this is the central market, this is the east, and this is the south. If I want a representation of that market, I am pulling onto the labels. So I get this is west, this is east, this is south, this is central. Now, do I want a separate coloring based on market? If I really wanted it market, let me pull even onto the color. So the red is representing the west, the orange by the east, green by south, right? So that's one more representation. Now within the market, I want to break it down product wise, right? The product type wise. Okay, so I'll pull the product type into detail. So within each market, right? This is a better way to understand the hierarchy. Within each market, within the west market, now this is herbal tea, this is tea, this is espresso, and this is coffee. So different kinds of shapes that are coming out again within the west market. Now if I really want to understand, let's say the products within each one. So product again, I'll drag it into the details. Oh, now this is a different representation altogether. Right? Now this is a different representation. Okay, so the product type is herbal tea and product is lemon. Product type is herbal tea, product is chamomile. So you could see for each of the product types and products. Now you can very well differentiate the stuff with a color. And if I want to do a little bit of more understanding, okay, the size of the rectangle is typically talking about how big is that particular market. So the whole rectangle is broken down in this kind of stuff, right? The order in which we have added the dimensions onto the marks, right? Initially we started market wise. Then within that market we went product type. Within that product type we went into the product. And if required, I can really add more and more dimensions also. But the order in which we are adding the dimension, they define how the tree map is grouping the rectangles. Now we can add different kinds of dimensions. We can add different kinds of dimensions, let's say to the rows or columns, to slice the things much more better. Probably what I wanted to see is what else do we have? Okay, let's say I want to add this date to the rows. You see a very interesting thing happening now. Now we'll get, okay, 2012, this is the breakup. 2013, this is the breakup. Now we are getting a different representation. The moment we are dragging the another field to the rows or the columns kind of stuff, I'm getting a breakup that particular date wise or the year wise. 2012, this is how my whole products are, parts are adding up to the whole, and this is how they are adding up to the whole in 2030. So you can add as many dimensions as possible like this, where you are able to slice the entire tree map into multiple tree maps. So the end result is a kind of a bar chart associated with the tree maps. So different tree maps adding together, coming together in the form of a bar chart. Probably if I'm saying instead of year, I'm going with quarters, now I'm getting 8 different tree maps. Or probably again when I'm dragging out, I'm getting 2 different kind of tree maps. So this is a simple or a better way to understand the whole process. And now let's say I want to do a coloring. Right now the coloring is just based on the market. But let's say I want a different coloring based on the market as well as product type. Right? All the teas, all the espressos, all the coffees, they need to be with a different color. I want to differentiate based on the market as well as let's say the product type. I want to do the coloring based on 2 aspects. Right now the coloring is based on the market. So if I want to look at placing the multiple fields on the color shelf, right, I can simply hold on to the shift key. When I want to drop the second one, I press the shift key, drop this product type also into color. Now you see I get different coloring. So the West and now the product type. The West with a product type espresso is highlighted with one color. The Central with espresso is highlighted with some other color. Now we could see a combination of colors representing the market as well as the product type. So this is one more way where we can bring in more and more better coloring to this chart, right? And on this chart I can add a little bit of more detail. Right, I can, what else can I do here? I can put a border, right, just to differentiate between the different fields. So I can put some kind of borders which can differentiate between different kinds of fields. So there is a clear-cut differentiation between the different fields across. So a better representation of the entire stuff. Now, let's say I want to convert this, right? So this is a tree map for me. I want to convert this. So here it is showing automatic and it is showing a rectangle out here. But what if I want to change this into a circle? The same thing, if I want to change it into a circle, this is what we call as a packed bubble. The same thing, if I change it into a circle, the default mark, I change it into a circle, it is called as a packed bubble, where I can really make out which ones are really the dominating ones. Right? And okay, let me add some more spice to it, where I really want the coloring not by all these things. Let's say by profit I want to do the coloring. So I'll drag the profit out here. Now I could see the ones which are loss making, which are shown with some kind of a pink color, and the ones that are profitable, they are shown with more and more dark blue, dark green kind of a color. You could clearly make out those kind of products which are having high sales, but they are making extreme losses. So we can really play around with the visualization. So this is a packed bubble chart. Now the same, let's say instead of a circle, let me change it to text. Wow. So this is what we are simply calling as, what is this? This is simply called as the word cloud. So you can now understand how easy it is to create the word cloud as well as the packed bubbles. Right? Alright. So these are some of the variants of the tree maps. Now let's move on to the area chart. Now these are all slightly easier kind of mechanisms. But of course, the difference is the other ones which I have discussed just a while back, they are all non-Cartesian charts. But again, the area chart and the pie chart that I am going to discuss the next, they are again back to the Cartesian charts itself. Right? Now, the simple way is, area chart is nothing much different from a line chart. The only difference is the area under it is simply filled. That's the only difference. And all other areas are, after that, they are simply stacked up. So the first one, it's a line chart, but the area under that line is filled, and all others are simply stacked up on the top of that. That's a simple way of visualizing. So here let me call this earlier charts as tree maps. Right, probably if I'm simply selecting the square, this is becoming a tree map. Now let me go to the next one, where I really wanted the bar chart. So in this, this is a area chart. The simple way of targeting that, let me plot date wise. So let me take the date here, and let me take the sales. Okay, oh, there is no point in doing it like this, so let me go it this way. Oh, sorry, sales here. Okay, so 2012-13, these are the sales. Let me do it one more detail. Probably instead of having the years like this, let me take the months. So these are the monthly sales, right? Now I really want this monthly sale broken product wise. So what I could have done for that? The product type, from here I will take it into the color. So I get a different color for each of the products. So by default a line chart is getting created here, right? But I want to change it into an area chart, right? The whole thing. So the simple way of looking at in an area chart, from the line I change it to area. In the mark segment, from the line I change it into area. That's it. My job is done. So this is for tea, this is for herbal tea, this is for espresso, and this is for coffee. So the first line chart is prepared, and on the top of it, the area under this line chart is filled. On the top of it, there is a stacking that is happening for the next level, and the area within each of them is simply getting filled. So this view is more and more aesthetically pleasing, right? If required, the names of the products, the product type, I drag it onto the label. Okay, now I get this is tea, herbal tea, espresso, and coffee. So I can really play around with the chart. Probably it is aesthetically pleasing, but again, those kind of weaknesses that were there with my stacked bar chart, they are existing even with this area chart. I cannot compare, right? Probably the August, if I want to compare across the different products, I cannot really do the comparison. So comparing the products sales across the months is not that easy here, right? So it's not straightforward. So that's a drawback which we have to understand. And probably again, if I want to use a quick table to work out some of the stuff, right? Especially working out in terms of percentages, I can still do that activity, right? I can very well create the quick table. So I go to this, where is it? Oh, I have to put it here. Now I have a quick table where I take the percentage of the total. So it is showing, okay, 1% to 9% is the percentage of the total sales we are talking. No, I don't want it. I want it between 0 to 100%. So the same thing, again I go here, compute using not across this time, I want to compute down. So overall it is 100%, and now I get a breakup of each of the products, right? Probably this is right from 71 odd percent to 100%, so I can get a breakup of each of them, and in some cases it could be very clearly evident that during some months something is more sold and something is lesser sold. So if we are telling a story with this kind of a data, we have to be carefully considering what either of the visualizations might represent or misrepresent, because I can't do the comparison between the different areas, right? So the simple way is I could have created, so how did I accomplish the whole thing? I simply created a line chart and changed the mark to area. And I can really make any kind of further slicing or further detail by adding some kind of dimension either to the color part, to the label part, to the details part. All of them I can just play around and I can really create some further slicing of that particular chart. And probably I can even change the sort order also. So I can do the sorting. So probably coffee comes here. So some kind of a sorting I can very well do the better ones versus. So I can put either the labels, I can look at the sorting, all these kinds of stuff we can very well do to finally do the plot. and then comes the pie chart. Again, one of the easiest things to do in Tableau. It's also a kind of a mark type. For the same data, let's say I want to go with a pie. Over. Right? I'm getting a pie. So a simple circle is what is solving the problem. That is the additional layer of flexibility with the pie chart which is not available with the other chart types. Now I can very well place the pie chart on the map as well. We'll look at it at a later point. Now I have changed the mark to a pie, and now this is going to give me the angle shelf. So let's say I don't want it month wise. Let me drag it off. Now it is giving me for each of the products. So it's a angle kind of a shelf. It's a circle where you can really simply we can use it for measurement purpose. So especially in the color, okay, let me take everything out. Let's do it right from the start. Right, let me not have anything anywhere. Okay, so this is a plain one, right? Or it's better if I had saved the earlier one. So let me save this, right, area map, and now let me create a new one which is talking of a pie chart. Now first thing is I'm changing to the mark to a pie. That's one. Now I get one shelf called angle shelf. Once the moment I have changed it to a pie, I am getting an angle shelf. And this angle shelf is what is a differentiator. Now simply let's say I pull the product type into this angle shelf, or probably the product as well. I pull the product into the angle shelf. So I am getting the product specified as a part of the angle. And let's say I want to look at the sales. So I am dragging the sales. So based on the sales, I want the angle to be created, not based on the product. So based on the sales, I want the angling to be created. So I'll drag the sales out here. So right now it is showing a full circle. Now I want to slice it, let's say based on the product type. Okay, I want to, our product. So I want to slice it. I want to color it based on the product. If it is looking so cluttered, let me take out the product. Let me take the product type. Okay, so this is the slicing that is coming on the product type. So simple way of working out is I have created the mark as pie, and within that first thing is I have put the sales in the angle shelf, and let's say the product type I have put in the color shelf, which is talking about the slices of the pie. And now I can very well go ahead in terms of creating a few more interesting labels associated with the whole stuff. Right now that I got a breakup of the entire thing. So sales I have used to define the angle of each of the slides, and the total summation is coming out. And based on the product type, we have defined the slices of the pie. Now I want to put different fields which will denote the labels. Now I can drag each of them, let's say sales itself, I want to drag onto the label. Okay, now I get a breakup. These are the sales. Now this time again I will drag the sales into the label. Right, again I will drag the same sales with a control shift button on. So I am dragging the sales into the labels. Where I can very well talk about the percentage of the total. Okay, this is the number. Again, let me drag the sales into the labels. Okay, so the two sales, the first one is talking about the number, the second one is talking about the percentage. And if required, I can even drag the product also into the label. So product type also, if I am dragging it onto the label, so a little bit of more description comes to each of them. So I can drag any such number of values into my labels to get more and more clarity. So this is how we are working out with a pie chart. But when you are using the pie chart, be careful. Right? It's very difficult for me to really compare whether the green is big or the blue is big here. It's very difficult for the human eye to really differentiate the differences in the angles. Here it looks like the green, the orange and the blue are more or less similar. So that is what is a kind of a drawback unless I have a represent or the labels being specified, it's very difficult for me to slice out on the things. So that always remains as a limitation associated with the pie chart. But overall, what we are able to convey through this session is, if I want to represent the part to whole kind of data, all these different charts really help us in doing the job, right? So you can do more and more practice by taking different kinds of data sets, which can really help you out to create a big picture on the data. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.